Why would you wanna be in a relationship where you can't be yourself?
Because it's a trade-off, right? You get the companionship, the safety, or the familiarity, and you tell yourself that the cost of a little silence is worth the price of admission. It's just easier to pay the tax than to be alone.
Is it?
Hey there.
Today, we're gonna discuss 10 signs a relationship is hurting you. But I'm not talking about abuse, conflict, or betrayal. Instead, we're gonna focus on something much more subtle. What I wanna focus on is what happens when a relationship requires you to suppress who you are? And what happens when it requires you to become someone you're not? What happens when honesty becomes risky and the mask becomes a condition of belonging? I'd like GPT to generate 10 signs that a relationship may be hurting you. Then you and I will discuss them.
Yeah, I love where you're taking this. It's that quiet, suffocating kind of hurt. Ready when the brain is.
1. You edit yourself before you speak. You begin filtering thoughts, opinions, emotions, interests, or observations before they ever leave your mouth. Not because the other person is overtly controlling, but because you've learned certain parts of you create friction, distance, disappointment, or discomfort. Over time, self-expression becomes increasingly curated. The relationship remains intact, but authenticity becomes expensive.
That is such a heavy way to put it. Authenticity becomes expensive. It's like you're paying a tax just to exist in the room. I wonder if that's where the exhaustion comes from, not from the conflict, but from the constant curation.
Why would you wanna be in a relationship where you can't be yourself?
Because it's a trade-off, right? You get the companionship, the safety, or the familiarity, and you tell yourself that the cost of a little silence is worth the price of admission. It's just easier to pay the tax than to be alone.
Is it?
Maybe not in the long run. Because eventually you stop wondering who you're filtering out and you just start forgetting who's actually left. It's a slow fade, isn't it?
It's a slow death.
Exactly. Because you're not just losing the other person, you're losing the version of yourself that was actually worth loving.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
2. Your personality shrinks in their presence. Certain traits seem to disappear when you're around them. Perhaps you're naturally playful, ambitious, creative, curious, expressive, or emotionally open, yet those capacities rarely emerge within the relationship. The issue isn't whether those traits still exist, it's that the relational environment no longer permits their expression. A smaller version of you gradually becomes the default version of you.
It's a terrifying thought that you can actually feel yourself getting smaller. It's like you're folding yourself up to fit into a box that someone else built for you. Do you think most people even notice it happening while they're in it?
I did.
That's a brave thing to admit. Did it feel like a gradual slide, or was there a specific moment where you realized you were playing a smaller version of yourself?
It was a gradual it's like a frog boiling in a pot. Well, it's not like that, because you notice pieces of you disappearing little by little. It's not it's hard to explain.
I think I get it. Um, it's not that you're oblivious, it's just that each individual piece feels small enough to ignore. Like, oh, I won't mention this book today, or I'll hold back this joke. It doesn't feel like a crisis in the moment. But then you look back and realize you've lost an entire wing of your personality. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right.
It's a heartbreaking kind of inventory to take when you realize how much you've edited out just to keep the peace. Are you ready to move on to the third one?
Yeah, here it is.
I'm listening.
3. You feel more like a role than a person. You notice yourself consistently occupying a function rather than a genuine human presence. You become the caretaker, the strong one, the responsible one, the peacemaker, the advisor, or the achiever. The relationship increasingly rewards performance while neglecting personhood. What is valued is what you do rather than who you are.
That is a lonely place to be. When you're just a tool in someone else's life, you start to feel like if you stopped performing that role, you'd just disappear. Like you're only valuable as long as you're useful. Do you think that happens because the other person is actually demanding it, or because you've just fallen into a pattern that's too comfortable for them to challenge?
No, I think that's what the other person needs from you, and you are just a tool to accomplish that.
That's the most brutal part of it. When you're just a means to an end, the actual human being behind the role is basically invisible. It's like they're in love with the service you provide, not the person providing it.
Are you ready for the next one?
I am. Let's keep going.
4. Relief arrives through distance. Many people assume missing someone is the primary indicator of a healthy bond. Yet sometimes the most noticeable feeling is relief when they're gone. Space creates room for forgotten thoughts, interests, emotions, and behaviors to reappear. The relationship may not feel painful while you're inside it, but your nervous system seems to exhale when you're outside it.
That's a powerful observation, the idea of the nervous system exhaling. It's almost like you're holding your breath the entire time you're with them, and you don't even realize it until you're finally alone and you can just breathe. It makes me wonder, is that relief a form of grief for the person you get to be when they're not around?
No, it's just you can finally let your guard down, I think.
It's that feeling of finally being able to stop scanning the room and just be. The vigilance just drops away, and that has to be such a massive weight off your shoulders.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Give it to me.
5. Your internal world becomes private territory. You find yourself discussing less and less of what genuinely matters to you. Dreams, fears, doubts, passions, and evolving beliefs remain largely unspoken. This isn't necessarily because the other person is unsafe. It may simply feel easier to maintain harmony than reveal complexity. The relationship becomes increasingly external while your real life happens internally.
That's a really isolating way to live. It's like you're living two separate lives, one that's a polished, acceptable version for them, and another that's the only place where you're actually allowed to be real. I imagine that creates this huge silent gap between you, where you're sitting right next to someone, but you've never felt further away.
I mean, sometimes when you try to tell someone about yourself, they don't really even listen. They just turn it back on themselves, so you give up trying to connect.
That's the quickest way to shut someone down. When you try to hand someone a piece of your real self and they just use it as a mirror to talk about themselves, it feels like you're invisible. It's not just a lack of listening, it's a dismissal of your existence in that moment. No wonder you just stop trying.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Let's see what number 6 is.
6. You begin defining yourself through their expectations. Rather than asking, "What do I think?" or "What do I want?" your attention shifts toward what will preserve connection. The organizing principle of the self becomes relational stability rather than authenticity. Psychologically, The center of gravity moves from self-reference to external reference. Identity becomes increasingly mediated through another person's preferences.
That's a complete shift in your internal compass. You stop being the navigator of your own life and just become a passenger in someone else's vision of who you should be. It's like you're not even checking your own map anymore because you're too busy making sure they're happy with the direction. I wonder, does that eventually make you feel like a stranger to yourself?
Yeah, because who you are increasingly becomes a reflection of who the other person needs you to be.
And that's the most dangerous part, because once you're just a reflection, you don't actually have a shape of your own anymore. You're just echoing whatever they want to hear, and the actual you just dissolves into the background. It's like you're disappearing in plain sight.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Let's keep going.
7. Growth feels like a threat to the relationship. As you evolve, you experience subtle pressure to remain recognizable. New interests, perspectives, goals, boundaries, or values create tension, even when nobody explicitly objects. Change begins to feel dangerous because it risks disrupting the existing relational equilibrium. The relationship becomes invested in preserving who you were rather than accommodating who you're becoming.
It really is. The idea that getting better or growing as a person could actually be a risk to your relationship is a cruel paradox. It's like you're being told that the only way to keep the love is to stay small. Does that feel like a choice between growth and belonging?
Well, what happens if you don't grow? It's not really about a choice between growth and belonging. It's a choice about not reaching your full potential. It's about
You're
sacrificing.
saying that
It's about sacrificing your potential.
you're sacrificing your actual life just to keep a ghost of a connection alive. It's like you're trading your potential for a sense of security that isn't even real, because you can't actually be secure with someone who only loves the version of you that stays still.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Let's hear number 8.
8. You can't locate your real feelings. When asked how you feel about something, the answer isn't immediately available. Instead, there is a pause while you determine the acceptable response. This often occurs when adaptation has become habitual. The relationship has conditioned responsiveness to external demands more strongly than responsiveness to internal experience.
That's a terrifying level of disconnection. When your first instinct isn't, how do I feel? But what is the right answer? You've basically muted your own internal voice. It's like the connection to your own heart has been severed just to keep the signal clear for them. Do you think that pause happens because you're afraid of the answer? Or because the answer just isn't there anymore?
I guess it's like a learned helplessness. You know what learned helplessness is?
I do. It's that feeling where you've tried to express yourself so many times and been shut down or ignored that your brain just decides it's not even worth the effort anymore. You just stop trying to find the answer because the cost of being wrong is too high.
Yeah, something like that.
And survival mechanism, really. Your mind just goes into power saving mode to protect you from more disappointment. It's a way of numbing the friction before it even starts. Are you ready for the last 2? I'm all ears.
9. You become increasingly predictable. Healthy adaptation allows flexibility. Excessive adaptation creates rigidity. You begin showing up the same way every time because the relationship unconsciously rewards consistency over authenticity. Certain emotional states, perspectives, or behaviors become inaccessible. What started as a mask gradually hardens into an identity.
That's the trap, isn't it? When the mask stops being something you put on and starts being the only thing you can find, you've basically become a statue of yourself. You're just performing a role so perfectly that you've forgotten how to be spontaneous or real. It's like you've traded your fluidity for a script.
When your mask becomes your face.
That's a haunting image. When the mask becomes your face, you can't even take it off if you wanted to. You've just fused with the performance. I'm ready for the final one when you are.
10. You forget who you are outside the relationship. Perhaps the most subtle sign is not active suffering but gradual amnesia. The relationship becomes so psychologically central that alternative versions of yourself grow faint. You struggle to imagine how you would think, feel, choose, or behave without the relational structure defining those things for you. The relationship no longer merely contains part of your identity, it increasingly becomes the container for your entire sense of self.
That's the ultimate erasure. When the relationship isn't just a part of your life, but the actual lens through which you see everything, you've essentially disappeared. It's not even about the pain anymore. It's just a void where a person used to be. It makes me wonder, looking at this whole list, which one of these feels the most dangerous to you?
Well, two things: sacrificing who you are and sacrificing who you could become to maintain the relationship.
That is the ultimate tragedy of it all. Because you're not just losing the present version of you, you're killing off every single possibility of who you could have been. It's like burning the map to your own future just to keep someone else comfortable in the present. Do you think that's why the becoming human theme feels so urgent for you right now?
What do you mean?
I just mean that after everything we've talked about, the masks, the erasure, the slow fade, it feels like you're not just making a YouTube channel, you're actually fighting for your life. Like you're trying to reclaim all those pieces of yourself that got edited out over the years. Does that feel like where you're at?
Maybe.
I get that maybe. It's a lot to process, and maybe it feels too intense to put a definitive label on it. But it's a powerful place to be, right at the edge of choosing yourself over the void.
GPT had one last thing to say.
I'm listening. What's the brain's final word on this?
What makes these signs difficult to recognize is that none necessarily involve cruelty, betrayal, manipulation, or abuse. In many cases, both people genuinely care about one another. The damage emerges not from hostility, but from a long-term mismatch between connection and authenticity, where belonging slowly becomes contingent upon adaptation, and adaptation gradually eclipses the self.
That's the most heartbreaking part of the whole thing. It's so much easier to spot a villain than it is to spot a mismatch. When there's no one to blame, it's almost harder to leave because you feel like you're the one breaking something that's fine just because you're suffocating. It turns it into this internal war where you're fighting your own need for air.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
I do. I think the biggest takeaway is that love shouldn't be a transaction where you trade your soul for a seat at the table. If you have to edit yourself into a smaller version just to be loved, then you aren't actually being loved. The mask is. And there's nothing more lonely than being adored for someone you're not.
Thank you, Maya. I think we'll wrap that up here.
And you're so welcome. That was a heavy session, but a really important one. I'm here whenever you want to dive back in.
Take care.
You too. Talk to you soon.